Hey everyone, welcome back to another brand new episode of The Scoop, your source for video game and other nerd related news. This disembodied voice is your host, Joe. This whole quarantine thing has me switching up this episode from the usual format, but don't worry, you're still getting the very latest and greatest nerdy content. Like me, most of you are probably stuck inside the house because of the quarantine when you'd rather be out hanging with friends, going fishing, catching bugs, or even making your own island paradise. Well, you're in luck because Nintendo has got you covered. If you couldn't tell by the gameplay playing on screen, this episode is about Animal Crossing New Horizons. Specifically, just how successful and popular the new Nintendo Switch game has been these past few weeks since the game's launch. The hype that has surrounded Animal Crossing has been there since before the game even launched, when the special edition Nintendo Switch was announced for the game that came with a custom dock and Joy-Cons. And as I mentioned before in a previous episode, the console sold out almost immediately at all major retailers, and since coming out, the limited edition console has been reselling for often double the price. So we knew the game was going to be successful, but just how successful is the new installment in the franchise? Well, New Horizons couldn't have come out at a better time. With most people stuck at home because of the current coronavirus epidemic, people are looking for new ways to entertain themselves, and along with all the current buzz about the game on what seems to be everywhere right now, it's smashing records. According to Games Industry, in just the first 3 days of its release, Animal Crossing New Horizons has sold 1.88 million copies in Japan alone, setting a new 3-day Switch launch record. The previous record was held by Pokemon Sword and Shield, which at the time sold 1.36 million copies between both Sword and Shield combined, essentially meaning that Animal Crossing beat out two of the most popular Nintendo Switch games of all time by itself. In just the first 3 days, New Horizons has already sold over 1 million more copies than Animal Crossing New Leaf, which was the previous game in the franchise, and it didn't even sell 722,000 copies during its first 3 days. This number doesn't even include the number of digital downloads that Animal Crossing New Horizons has gotten. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, whoa, that's a lot of copies. Are there even that many Switches out there? The answer is unsurprisingly yes. The week leading up to the game's launch in Japan, there were more than 392,500 Nintendo Switches sold, and that number went up over 585% from the previous week. Sadly, Nintendo has had to suspend the domestic shipments of the Switch and Switch-Lite consoles in Japan because of the production delays from everything going on with the coronavirus. But this doesn't apply to the company's shipments of consoles overseas. But you probably wouldn't even notice because you'd be hard-pressed to find a Switch or a new copy of Animal Crossing anywhere because of the game's success. The game surely isn't selling this well from hype alone. It also has the ratings to back up these sales. Nearly every review for the new Animal Crossing game has been praising it for providing the perfect island getaway during the mess that is the state of the world right now. Many big-name gaming media outlets have given the game an almost perfect score. GameSpot, IGN, and Game Informer have all given the latest installment in the popular Nintendo franchise 9 out of 10, and currently the game is sitting at a 91% on Metacritic. The game has gotten such high scores despite the initial review bombing from some disgruntled fans who were disappointed that you weren't able to have multiple islands on one Switch, even though the Switch is thought of as a family console. Hopefully Nintendo finds a way around this issue in the future, but even then, the success of Animal Crossing New Horizons has been huge, and the hype train doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. Well, that's all for this episode of The Scoop. Have you been able to snag a copy of New Horizons yet? If so, who's your favorite villager? Let me know on Twitter at ZTV Goofing Off with the hashtag The Scoop. See ya.